Hello everyone, I am ENO OLOKPO. I am an artist and a storyteller, and today I'm going to be reviewing author, dramatist, and Nobel Prize laureate WOLE SOYINKA, Professor WOLE SOYINKA. And today I'm introducing my host. I have with me here.
Good evening, everyone. Again, we are still trying to manage this close, small camera thing. We've been working on having a landscape thing, and it's a technical issue. That's by way of introduction. I am the technical support here. My name is Samuel Olokpo, and I'm sitting here with this young author of this book that you all know, The Bowl of Rice, and is going to review another great name in the literary industry, in person of Professor WOLE SOYINKA. She's going to do much of the talking, and the reason why she was able to go into the literary world quite early is because reading has been her passion from when she was very young. That's why she's, attempting to review big names. Like last Saturday, we had Chimamanda.
Yes.
And then today we are having another giant, Professor WOLE SOYINKA. So thank you for being with us, and happy listening.
Yes.
So,
I don't really have all of his works here. I have a few of the most important plays in his whole writing career. We have A Dance of the Forest, we have The Lion and the Jew, Mad Men and the Specialists, and my favorite, Death and the King's Horsemen. And we also have his debut novel, The Interpreters. Yes, we have The Interpreters here. So I'm going to be giving a brief summary of them all, and then we'll talk about Professor SOYINKA's aim in his writing style and what message he was trying to pass across to Nigeria, because at the time when his career began, it started post Civil War time, through Civil War time. So
okay, he didn't write before the independence.
no, he wrote shortly after the independence. He wrote. He started when he had done his study in University of Leeds.
Okay.
He came back to Nigeria for research on the traditional African.
Okay.
And we're back.
Are we back? Are we still live?
We're back. Yes, we're back. So I'll talk about The Death and the King's Horseman. Now this is my favorite because it is supposed to be considered a tragedy. A tragedy in literature is what we see as a piece of story where it starts, things happen, things don't go well, and maybe somebody dies. It's crazy like that. So this was actually a tragedy because someone died at the end. But what he did here was that the death was supposed to be a thing on purpose. It was supposed to happen. The story of The Death and the King's Horseman is the chief's or the king's horseman, his official horseman, the Elesin. Yeah, he was supposed to join him in the afterlife because when the king died, his chief horseman would follow him. So there was supposed to be a sort of suicide, but it wasn't a bad thing. It was not considered a bad thing in their time in that society. In fact, if he did not die, if he did not commit that suicide, it would be a bad thing. Their whole existence would just finish, because I think there were certain blessings they were supposed to get from the Elesin escorting his chief, his king, to the afterlife. The blessing that all of them, it was just right. It was not that death, they considered death a bad thing. They considered suicide a bad thing. So He was supposed to die, but at that time, there were colonial masters in the area, and they disrupted it because for them it was wrong. It was against the law of His Majesty, to take one's life. So they stopped the whole procedure and everything just went completely wrong. That was actually where the tragedy began. One would think that the tragedy would begin where he killed himself. There would be pain, there would be grief, yes, but there would be a joy because it was what was right. So they stopped it and things started going wrong. It was not what was supposed to happen because you cannot keep your king waiting at like the gates of heaven,
In the
but they
afterlife.
called it the gates of the afterlife. There were three worlds: the world of the living, the dead, and the unborn. He touched the living and the dead briefly here. There was a mentioning of the land of the unborn, but that was at the end. So when he couldn't make it and he was in prison, his son came from abroad and the son did it for him. So there was a proverb that it is not the young sapling that is needed for such things. It is the old roots. He has gone through so many things as a father, as a chief. He was the one who was supposed to pass through that right. But his son, seeing the danger it would bring if that right was not fulfilled, went through it. So that was the tragedy. But I was actually happy because they beat the colonial masters. They fulfilled their duties as people of that society. And that's the death and the king's horseman. It's a very wonderful story with all the proverbs and the song and dance. They really take you there. He has a way with words, a way with African traditional storytelling, which is one thing I greatly admire about him. Even though he is considered a traditionalist, it does not matter his religion. It matters that spirit he has, the spirit that African tradition still matters in our society. And that is also his aim in his other books, because here we also see a foreigner coming to invade a society and make this young maiden to feel like she's above it or she's above age, which is a very great thing in African society. They say what an elder sits down and sees, a child, even if he climbs the tallest tree, will not see it. So a foreigner came and made the young maiden in the Lion and the Jew. She's actually the Jew in the story. So the foreigner, which is a white man who came to take some pictures for a magazine, made her feel like she was above it all. She was above age, she was above authority. And then she ended up being deceived by the lion, which is the chief of their village, because he is old. He has wisdom, and he was able to trick her into a few things. So if you're looking for where age beats technology or tradition beats any other thing, you should read The Lion and the Jew. It's a very wonderful book. It also has it's like drama inside drama. You will see the wonderful display of songs and dance. They have a dance for the unmasked, the dance for those who are heady. There's a dance for everything. That's storytelling in another way. Storytelling in the form of song and dance. You can also find that here in Mad Men and the Specialists, where there's a cult, Ass. They're like cannibals, and the family, they are just all over trying to get themselves out of the cult because their father is in the cult, and it's all very crazy because he gathers a group of disabled, a group of handicaps, because he knows he can bend those. They are the ones rejected by society. So I think what he was trying to do here, in my opinion, what he was trying to portray,
Mad Men and the Specialists.
Yeah. So I think he was trying to portray here a society where people are seen as less privileged, casted out, and then
system which the builder has rejected.
Yes, and then someone comes with his own tradition, with his own culture, with his own way of life. Now change them since they actually don't have anything to do.
Okay.
Yes.
So now gives them purpose.
Yes, and that purpose in itself is another crazy way of life that it does not. It only brought trouble. This is also a tragedy. Mostly everybody died here. So that's Madmen and the Specialist. And a dance of the forest. It is actually as its name implies. It is a song and dance, a call and response. It is a pure child of African tradition and African culture. It's about the spirits, the worlds, the living and the dead. It is mostly about balance and how those two elements do not meet, but they have to meet. It is that clash that they create that actually creates something. Even though they don't see eye to eye like fire and water, they have to come together. And in that coming together, whatever they create, be it bad or good, the forest father, the character in the book, accepts it, judges them and teaches them because he's a father. The mother, most of the spirits from the land of the dead come from the earth. Okay. So I think the forest father is the masculine figure or masculine entity or energy in this book, and then the swamp in which the dead women, the half children, and all those other mini gods come out from. That is the mother. The feminine energy. So that's for A Dance of the Forest. It's a very beautiful book. This book was actually the play. It was acted out on Nigeria's first independence.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, on the Independence Day celebrations in 1960.
Dance of the Forest.
Yes, it's a very special.
Remind you, we are going to come back on all these books.
Yes, this is summary.
We are just glazing over.
Do analysis. Yes. So this is WOLE Soyinka's first novel, The Interpreters. The Interpreters is set in 1960.
So WOLE Soyinka is basically a dramatist. He writes drama.
Yeah.
Not novels.
And when he writes novels, I think it is based on some sort of strong experience. Because another novel I've heard of, which I have not read, is The Man Died. He wrote that in his time in prison during the Civil War.
Okay. He was in prison during the Nigerian Civil War.
During the Nigerian Civil War for calling out for peace. He did not believe in war. He felt like there was peace. And I felt like even if he believes in war, at the time when he was calling for peace, maybe being a traditional person, I think he should understand balance. So I feel like the time he was calling for peace, maybe he thought the war had gone on long enough. It was time to move on to the other side because they were going only on the war side. It didn't seem like there was going to be a peace side. So he was actually writing, calling for peace at that time. The war had gone on, but he was imprisoned. And that's when he wrote The Man Died. But we're talking about The Interpreters. This is set in 1960. It's based on 5 characters, 5 men. Kola is an artist. He does paintings of things, like he expresses himself using the characters of his friends. He has many friends, so he paints them. He paints them as different sort of entities. So you will also see here again, he's putting himself in the tradition. The characters appreciate African culture, balance, elements. Yes. And we have Egbo, the aristocrat, who is struggling to find himself, and is also he has friends, but here we would see he's finding himself in women, mostly in women. First it was an elderly woman, Simi, and then it was the girl who he never knew her name at the end. So he is trying to find himself, and the second, the engineer, he actually died. He threw them all into turmoil. It was from that turmoil that they rose like a phoenix, the whole team. So I think it's called The Interpreters because they met this strange man that said he rose from the dead. And when he died, he was a normal black man, but when he woke up from the dead, he came out as an albino. So he kept saying all these esoteric things, and just needed to interpret it. So it was at a prayer session we had at the end. I think there was going to be an interpreting. If not, throughout the book, there wasn't really an interpreting. So I think the spirits are going to come out and interpret something. So, but it's a very nice novel, very down to earth, and that's for the interpreter. So now we can go into analysis.
Okay. I was still not satisfied. If you can take the story of Death and the King's Horseman again, because I've heard a lot about this book, and a lot of performance have been done about it, stage dramas and the rest. And I think it remains one of Soyinka's books that re-echo the mastery in his artistic style of writing.
Yes, because very recently I heard on the 13th of February, this was reacted again in the US, and he actually attended the play.
Oh, wow.
I was so happy about it.
So this book should be over 40 something years since he wrote it. Okay. So in Death and the King's Horseman, what kind of society was he trying to portray? The society of is it the king's horseman? What is the king's horseman supposed to do for the king? What role does he play
in life, in the land of the living? He's supposed to play like the king's right hand man, somebody who would be able to lay his life down for the king, because it is his. You know the way the throne is passed down from one generation to another. His is almost as special. That title he has is going to be passed down to his son.
What's the name of the title?
He's the eldest in the king's horseman. Yes, that's why they call him Death and the King's Horseman.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so he struggled with death when he was not supposed to struggle with death.
Oh, okay. So what you are saying is, if the king dies, the election is supposed to die along with the king, and escort him in the afterlife.
He's his horseman there as well.
Okay.
Because even the king's horses and dogs, they were killed. So it was just remaining his horseman.
Yeah.
Because they were going to go there.
Okay.
There was another more extravagant life in the land of the afterlife, the land of the dead. Yeah.
Okay.
You're supposed to pass like 9 passages where there are rocks, where there's a forest. But if he came late, he would be walking through cat vomit and horse dung and all sorts of things.
All sorts of mess.
Yes. So he was supposed to ride in style with his king. He was even supposed to ride on a horse, because he's a horseman.
Okay.
That's why they kill the king's horses and dogs.
Oh, okay.
To ride the king. Like an entourage.
Oh, okay.
His king was waiting for him at the passage. The king cannot go
to the afterlife
passages alone. Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that is his role.
But what interrupted that role in the story, the Death and the King's Horseman?
It was the fact that the colonial masters, the English people who were there, by their own laws, thought that death was a bad thing. That death or suicide was against the law. It was not right for someone to take their life. That is actually fine and good, but they informed them that it was a custom. It is not like he's taking his life just because he wants to take his life or he has any issues. He needs to. It's a need. Yeah? Okay, yeah. So we're seeing comments. You heard this is practiced in real life in certain cultures. It is also practiced. It was also practiced in Egypt. If a pharaoh died, there's a certain caste of people, like his, I won't say right hand man, but some sons, like an age group.
Okay.
Yes, like chief servants. Yes, the chief servants. The chief servants' sons or the chief servants would be mummified and they would join them. In Japanese, there's also a culture where they build a whole army of out of clay and put in the emperor's grave.
Great, okay.
So it's actually a